Hello YouTube, my name's Ruben and I ride this beautiful 2012 Honda CBR 250R. I've owned it since about October of 2012 and so far it's been a really nice bike. It's actually my third bike. Now, story goes is that I wanted to buy a motorbike, so I went onto the internet and I just bought a bike that I liked the look of. It was a 1985 Honda Rebel and I paid for it to get shipped to my city from the other end of the country, and when it arrived it wasn't quite in the best condition, so basically I got screwed over and the description didn't say it had anything wrong with it. And of course I didn't do my research. I should have looked at the bike before I bought it and ended up getting a lemon. I lost a lot of money on that, so the next bike I bought was quite a sensible bike, 2006 Yamaha Scorpio, which is a little single cylinder 225. I liked it. It was a light bike. It was very easy to manoeuvre. Nothing wrong with it. Carburetor though, I didn't quite like that because warming up the bike in the morning, it just seemed like a waste of time really, when I could just jump on a fuel injected bike and head off. Anyway, what I'd done prior to getting the Yamaha Scorpio was I emailed all the dealerships within my local area and also just outside my local area and said to them, well, hey, if you trade in a bike that meets the criteria of being Lunar approved and is a good price under X amount, and you just want to make a quick sale, let me know and I'll come to the shop, take a look at the bike, and if I like it I'll take it off your hands. Anyway, I got a email back from a guy, or the guy actually rang me from my local Honda dealership probably about 2 days after I got the Yamaha Scorpio, because I kind of got fed up waiting and found this thing on Trade Me, which is our sort of national auction site, kind of like your guys' version of eBay or whatever. And yeah, I picked it up for a decent price, and I like the bike. But yeah, 3 days later, the guy gives me a call from the Honda dealership and says, "Look, just traded in this 2012 Honda CBR 250R. It had done 9,000 Ks. It had an aftermarket Yoshimura slip-on exhaust pipe, and it also had a pack rack as well. It was in good nick. It hadn't been dropped. The guy hadn't thrashed the bike either. Like, there are no scrapes on the foot pegs, nothing like that. So I know it looked fantastic. The brand new price of a Honda CBR 250R in New Zealand is 7.5 grand. The price that the dealership wanted for this Honda CBR 250R was 5.5, and with the aftermarket pipe and the pack rack, I couldn't turn it down at that price. So I traded in my Yamaha Scorpio at the dealership and I rode home on a CBR 250R, much to my wife's despair. She didn't quite appreciate that, yeah. But in any case, I was really blown away by the bike. I mean, I had to test ridden a Honda CBR 250R before, albeit on a day that was torrential. I got absolutely soaked and probably wasn't the best time and place to test ride a bike. But hey, sometimes when you're going to buy a bike and you decide, hey, I'm going to ride this thing in all weather conditions, sometimes you just gotta, I don't know, get out there and see what it's like in those conditions. In any case, I enjoy the aesthetics of the bike, the look of the bike. It looks new. It doesn't have an old, dated design like those 2004 Suzuki GSXs, the old Gixxers. They look like an older bike. I liked the more modern, angular look to it, much like the VFR 1200, its bigger brother. I actually quite like the look of the VFR 1200 when I was in the Honda shop, and the CBR, yeah, I liked the look of it, but of course when I first went to the shop I couldn't afford that $7,500 price. In any case, the bike looks good. It's got wicked fairings on it. I mean, I haven't been knocked around on the bike as much as like what I was on the Scorpio. Scorpio was a naked bike, very light in comparison to the CBR 250R, but still those fairings do make a difference at speed. Keeps a bit of that wind off you as well. Also a bit of the rain, that wetness. We don't like it too much, us bikers. In any case, the sound was the thing that really sold me on the bike. When I was in the dealership, the moment the guy fired up the bike with that Yoshimura slip-on pipe, I literally felt a tug on my heartstrings. It it caught my attention straight away, and it had this deep, raw tone to it, and it just sounded fantastic. If you guys are familiar with the Iroquois helicopters, basically they were a helicopter used in Vietnam, and we have Iroquois helicopters flying over where I am quite often because there's an Air Force base quite nearby. And the bike, when he fired it up, it sounded like one of these Iroquois helicopters, because at a distance the rotors are breaking the speed of sound, so they've got this real brutal thump to them, and that's what the sound of this bike has because of the single cylinder. Single cylinder bikes, as you're probably familiar with, you often find them on dirt bikes. Not often you find them on a sports bike, other than these Chinese bikes that are coming out now. You'll find a lot of them are actually smaller capacity single cylinder bikes. But yeah, so Honda has sort of moved away from like the days of the CBR 250R, which was a 4-cylinder bike, and the thing revved up to 20,000 RPM, and it was like 46 horsepower or something like that, and it was just, it's nuts. I haven't ridden one myself, but that was a bike that I was keen on when I was a kid, because it looked and sounded awesome. But no, Honda's gone in the opposite direction. They've picked a single cylinder bike. It's now assembled in Thailand as opposed to Japan. Not that bad actually, because I mean, Honda have been renowned for their quality control over the years, or at least to my understanding. My stepfather has owned a lot of Hondas, and he says, "Yep, Honda bikes are great. They're fine." Now, the thing that kind of crossed my mind when I found out it was a Thai-made bike was like, well, is it going to be that same quality of workmanship that you find on a Japanese manufactured bike? Surprisingly, yeah, it's actually quite close. I mean, there's a few minor things, like just the tolerances of things that are put together that seem a little bit out of place. To be perfectly honest, I'm not too sure if the fact that the bike is made in Thailand makes any difference to those things, because there isn't a CBR 250R of this exact model made in Japan, so you can't compare the two. You can only create some kind of theory behind it. But the advantage, of course, of a Thai-made bike is it's a lot cheaper, hence that $7,500 price. I mean, if the bike was made in Japan, it would probably be very close to $10,000, for example. Anyway, moving back onto the bike, the setup is quite nice. In terms of ergonomics, I'm quite a small guy. I don't weigh too much. I'm about 68 kilos and just under 1.7 meters tall. Not too sure what that is in pounds and feet. You guys will have to work that out using your Google Foo skills. But in any case, the bike sits quite well with me. The seat height, little bit on the high side, but not too much. I mean, I don't have the longest legs in the world. Someone a bit taller than me wouldn't have any problem whatsoever, but I am sort of on the balls of my feet, not quite on my tippy toes, but on the balls of my feet when I'm at the traffic lights and pulled up and stuff like that. I can put a foot to the ground, but that's if I have the opposite foot up on the peg. And when I'm at the traffic lights and that type of thing, I like to have both feet firmly on the ground. Good practice, because I'm on my learner license at the moment, and I haven't been riding bikes for a long time. Good practice to roll up to the traffic lights, don't shift into neutral and keep both feet down at the same time. Anyway, the brakes are good. I found with the front brake though, it was really good to start with, and then I've noticed it getting quite spongy. The initial sort of movement of your front brake lever is, I don't know, it feels like there's nothing within the first 20 mils of it, and then all of a sudden the brakes come on. I took it to the Honda shop to get them looked at, and they said, well, what they did, was they pulled the brakes off the rotor, and they pushed out the calipers. Sorry, I'm not familiar with terms here, but they basically pushed the brakes back out. And the guy said to me, sometimes you can get a bubble or something like that, or a bubble of air in the line, and you just want to push that back up to the top. I was like, okay, so we did that, and the brakes felt good for probably another 100 k's after that, and then they went back to what they're like now. So I've just kind of learned to deal with it. I haven't found any other niggles with the bike. I had a couple of weird sort of electronic things go wrong with a bike. From time to time, it decides that it's not in neutral for some reason. Like, you know how if you shift a bike into neutral, that little light comes on? I've had it happen to me probably about 3 times since October, where I've had the bike in neutral, and it hasn't registered as being in neutral. And this is when I've gone to start the bike. Now, there is that clutch override, thankfully, so you pull the clutch in, you can start the bike. But yeah, for some reason it just wouldn't detect that it was in neutral. Anyway, it's only happened a few times. It seems like the problem has kind of gone away now. I haven't noticed it in quite a long time. Either that or I've just gotten used to it, because I mean, quick fix, just pulling the clutch and you know the thing's in neutral anyway because it rocks back and forth. So yeah, those are the two things that I've found that I don't like about it. One other minor thing is just the fairings. There's quite a bit of creaking going on with the dashboard or something behind it. I have had the whole front fairings off before. Maybe I didn't put them back together properly. Who knows? But basically, the creaking sound, it kind of gets to you. But I suppose if you're wearing earplugs like I do now when I go on my long trips, you don't notice it. But yeah, it's a rattle, it's a creak, it's something to do with the plastics, and yeah, that's something it's just a pet peeve. It's nothing majorly wrong with the bike. In fact, all the things that I've detailed aren't major problems. Considering I've done about 5,000 Ks on the thing, and I've oiled the chain once, I've checked my tyre pressure once. You know, I'm pretty slack, pretty lazy when it comes to looking after my bike. But the thing with it is that it goes. I mean, it doesn't have any problems with it. Moving on to things that I've found wrong with the bike, to things that I don't like about the bike. Quite simply, the only thing I don't like about the CBR 250R is the power. It just doesn't have that pickup that you want, especially when you're coming out of corners. You're coming out of a corner and you know for a fact, you keep doing it over and over again, you keep working at these corners. I go on this regular loop that you see now on a regular basis, and when I can see the exit to the corner and I pour on the power because I'm coming out of the corner, I want to stand the bike back up, it just goes meh and doesn't do anything, go anywhere. This is probably less of a disadvantage and more of a feature. If you're like me and you're a learner, and you shouldn't have access to that kind of power anyway, because if you did, chances are you would most likely end up in a bad situation. So, I don't know, good thing, bad thing. When I've been riding with mates, especially up big hills and that type of thing, they can just outpace me. Even someone on a 250 Hornet can outpace me simply because he's got more cylinders than I do, and it translates to a bit more horsepower. It's not a slow bike. Thanks to the single cylinder around town, you'll actually notice it's a lot easier to get along with compared with your higher revving bikes. Just today I've ridden a 250 GSX, one of those Suzukis, and yeah, sure, the thing revs up to 17,000 RPM, but when you're trying to accelerate away from a set of traffic lights and you're pulling 7,000 RPM to do a comfortable lot of acceleration, it's just like, man, this feels really unnecessary. So as opposed to that, if you go with a CBR 250R with that single cylinder, you'll notice around town it's just a lot smoother and less hassle. So yeah, I mean, yes and no in terms of the single cylinder design for the bike. Yes, it's good because around town it's fantastic. Maintenance is going to cost a lot less. Your valve clearances, that type of thing, won't take as long. Disadvantage is that you just don't have as much grunt as your friends do. Someone on a Ninja 250R, for example, would be able to outpace you, not by miles, but because they've got that extra bit of grunt there. You'll definitely notice a bit of lag in comparison. However, that leads me on to my next point, is fuel economy. I've never run out of fuel on this thing, and I mean, at the moment my tachometer is sitting at tachometer. I don't know, what do you call it, that adjustable speedometer thing that you can keep resetting. Yeah, at the moment it's sitting at 260 kilometers, and I still reckon I've got about 4 more litres left in the tank out of a total of 13. Remarkable fuel economy. I filled up, I think, twice on a 600k journey. So, I haven't figured out what my ultimate extended range is on the bike before I end up with vapor only in the fuel tank. Um, but yeah, I think it'd be close to 350 kilometers based off, how many liters I've had left in the tank after a certain period of time on the road and what the little clock has told me in terms of how many Ks I've rocked up. So yeah, economy's good, um, which is, I don't know, fantastic if you're a commuter. Um, I know I went off on a bit of a tangent about the ergonomics, but coming back to that, shorter rider, however, I don't have too many other problems. You can get a bit of a sore ass if you're riding this thing for a long time. I mean, I've had the seat redone, had a bit of extra padding put in it, and even then I still noticed um, a little bit of numb ass syndrome going on after a long ride. But I think you'll get that with a lot of bikes. Uh, Also, the handlebars aren't too much of a stretch. I mean, I can prop myself right up forward on the seat, or I can push myself right back, and it's comfortable either way. Um, I wouldn't take a pillion on it. Definitely not. It's a 250. I wouldn't be able to handle it. But yeah, ergonomics are good. Um, Definitely a very comfortable bike. Overall, I'd rate the bike quite highly. If you're a learner and you're looking for something, you know, that won't get you into trouble anytime soon, definitely pick up the Honda CBR 250R. It's a very good bike. You can get it for quite a cheap price, and I'm seeing a lot of them around now, so they're getting quite popular. I hope you've enjoyed this, and yeah, if you've got any questions, just flick me a comment below.